There is water flowing beneath this church. Not beside it. Not from a fountain outside. Beneath it. Cold water, hidden inside rock. And for centuries, people have come here to touch it, collect it, and pray beside it. But that is not the strangest part. Because according to an old local tradition, this place became sacred after a man was saved from what should have been a fatal fall. A horse, a cliff, a desperate prayer, and a survival that people could not explain. So tonight we are following one question. Why is this water hidden beneath a church? And stay with me, because the story of the rider changes everything. We are in Marino, in the hills south of Rome. Long before the sanctuary looked as it does today, this place was already connected to water. A natural spring emerged from volcanic rock. People used it. Travelers passed nearby. Nothing about that alone was extraordinary. Then devotion began growing around an image of the Virgin Mary and child associated with the site. Over time, rock, water, and faith became inseparable. But one story would give the sanctuary its most dramatic legend, and it begins on horseback. According to local tradition, a rider was traveling near the rocky slope above the spring. Then something went wrong. His horse lost control. Horse and rider plunged toward the ravine. There was no time to stop. No safe path below. Only rock. The man believed he was about to die. And in that instant, he cried out to the Virgin Mary. What happened next became part of the identity of this place. Tradition says the rider survived. Not because the fall never happened, but because something prevented it from ending the way everyone expected. Was it luck? A distorted memory? A story transformed by centuries? Or an event the people who preserved it genuinely considered miraculous? That question drew attention to the place. But the water was already waiting below. This is where the story becomes more interesting. The miracle tradition concerns the rider, but the sanctuary became permanently linked to water. Why? Because the spring was not temporary, it remained. People could return to it, touch it, carry it home. The extraordinary event belonged to the past. The water belonged to the present. And that difference matters. A miracle story can be told. A spring can be experienced. Generation after generation, Pilgrims did exactly that. The sanctuary became known as Madonna dell'Acquasanta, the Madonna of the holy water. But before we call the water miraculous, there is something we need to separate very carefully. The spring is real. The sanctuary is real. The centuries of devotion are real. But there is no scientific evidence showing that the water contains a supernatural healing substance. That distinction is essential. Science can study minerals, temperature, purity, geology. It cannot measure whether water carries grace. That belongs to faith, and perhaps that is precisely why this place survived so long. Nobody needed the spring to glow. Nobody needed it to change color. It simply kept flowing, and people gave meaning to it. But then the question becomes harder. Why did this particular spring become sacred? While thousands of others were forgotten, look at the sanctuary carefully. It does not feel separated from the rock. It feels absorbed into it. Stone walls, dark cavities, old devotional images, water emerging from below. The architecture itself tells the story. Human beings did not simply build a church beside nature. They built around a place they already considered significant. That is powerful because centuries pass. But physical space preserves memory differently from books. You can still enter, still descend, still hear water, still touch the stone, and suddenly a medieval legend stops feeling distant. The story becomes something you can stand inside. Remember the rider? At first, he seems to be the center of the story. A man survives a fall. People call it miraculous. But think about what remained after he disappeared. Not the horse, not the witnesses, not even certainty about exactly what happened. The water remained. That may be the real reason the tradition endured. The spring became a physical anchor for an invisible story. Every person who arrived afterward could repeat the same gesture. Touch the water, make a prayer, carry some home. The miracle could no longer be witnessed. But the place could, and that changes everything. So why is this water hidden beneath a church? Because the church grew around a place people had already filled with meaning. A spring, a sacred image, a survival story. Centuries of devotion, layer after layer, until nature and faith became almost impossible to separate. Maybe the writer survived by chance. Maybe the story changed as it was repeated. Maybe those who preserved it witnessed something they believed could only be divine. We cannot return to that moment, but we can return to the place. And there, beneath stone built by generations who came before us. The water is still flowing. Perhaps that is why people still come. Not because every question has been answered, but because one question has survived. What happened here that made this ordinary water impossible to forget? This is Divine Eternal Stories. We investigate the places where history, mystery, evidence, and faith collide, without telling you what you must believe. If you want to discover more forgotten Christian mysteries hidden across Italy and the world, subscribe. Because somewhere else, another spring is flowing, another story has survived, and another place is waiting for us to ask, what happened here?